get this camera together here and pull it back just a little bit. Alright guys, this is Shaneen Megji. I believe she's a doctor or a psychologist or something. However, she definitely knows what she's talking about when it comes to biblical history and behavioral psychology. So this particular video is the demonic spirits behind narcissism. As usual, I'm going to link the video below. We're only going to pay attention to the first two spirits just because they directly relate to our culture. And what I'm going to do is pretty much translate her words from professional to layman's so that niggas can understand. Let's get in it.
Experiencing massive chaos, manipulation, lying, accusations, rage, crazy making behavior from a narcissist in your life? Well, chances are their narcissism stems from more than just a personality disorder or a cultural upbringing issue or a traumatic experience in childhood or some biological predisposition. In addition to the above, it is possible that the narcissist in your life is also being influenced and empowered by demonic spirits. In this video, I'm going to talk about what those spirits are and what the scripture says about them. Now first, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Shaneen Megji. I'm a transition coach. Welcome to my YouTube series on Toxicity is Not Your Destiny, where I put out weekly videos to help people navigate toxic relationships and environments in their lives from a biblical, practical, and spiritual perspective. So if you like this video, take a moment right now, click on that subscribe button and click on the little bell, because every single week I'm going to be bringing you a new video to empower you in navigating toxic relationships in your life. Now let's dive back into the subject. I want to preface this teaching by saying that narcissism is a complex issue. While I believe that there are demonic spirits that play into it, I don't believe it is a condition that is solely caused by demons. We are a triune being. We're body, soul, and spirit, and therefore all three dimensions have a part to play in forming narcissism in a person. Demonic spirits are one aspect of it, but there are also other issues at play that are interconnected with each other, such as trauma and wounding of the soul from childhood, ungodly beliefs and coming into agreement with lies, genetics where certain temperaments are more predisposed to becoming narcissistic than other ones, if the right conditions are in place for narcissism to start to grow and come out in a person. Narcissism can also be formed through culture. So there's a lot of things that play into it. So in today's video,
So as she just said, narcissism can also be formed through culture. This is what's happened to the black race, or the African American race in the United States of America, if you will. Through the manipulation of TV, news, information, whether sports, you got the dehumanization aspect of it. You have mass incarceration. You have just a highly suggestive influence to do evil. And then you also have the concept where good is bad and bad is good. You got the no snitching rule. We have a lot of quote unquote cultural rules and codes in the black community that when you really dive deep into it are pretty much narcissistic.
I want to focus on one of the dimensions, the spiritual dimension, which is the influence of demonic spirits in forming narcissism. Now, here are some of the manifestations that you may already know about narcissism. A narcissist is someone who has grandiose thinking and feels a high degree of self-importance, who is massively entitled, who is envious of others, who believes others are envious of them. Narcissists take advantage of others. They exploit, they are opportunistic, They are callous with no heartfelt empathy. They are unteachable. They don't self-reflect. They don't take responsibility. They rarely or never apologize. And then on top of it, they have these haughty, arrogant attitudes. And they're preoccupied with success, with beauty, ideal love, or being brilliant. They are highly manipulative and they lie. They are dependent on other people to regulate their negative emotions because they don't have the capacity to do it themselves. Narcissists mete out their abuse insidiously and subtly through death by 1,000 cuts. So how do demonic spirits play into all of this? As you can see from the traits of a narcissist, you are not dealing with just one demonic spirit, but with a family of them. You may have primary spirits, which are like the parental figures in that family, and then secondary spirits operating, which are like the siblings and the cousins and the distant relatives. So narcissism entails a community of spirits abiding together like an infrastructure inside the being of a person. So I'm going to share my insights and what I've observed to be the main spirits operating behind narcissism. And
guys,
there are
attention.
surely
She's about to
more,
hit the
but
nail
in
on
this
the head.
video, I'm going to tackle the main ones that I've observed and what the scriptures have to say about those spirits. So here goes. Number 1, the spirit of Jezebel and Ahab. These two spirits are like two sides of one coin working together. Now, Jezebel and Ahab were actually a wicked royal couple in the Old Testament in the book of Kings who led the people of God away from God, and they used massive fear and bullying and intimidation and eventually murder to get what they wanted. Ahab was a king and Jezebel was his wife. So if you read about this couple in 1 Kings all the way from 16 to 22, you will see that Jezebel is a narcissist and more than a narcissist because she's manipulative, she's vain, entitled, shameless, callous, lawless. She's overt. And actually, not many people would notice this, but Ahab was a narcissist as well. The Bible has very strong language to say about him. In 1 Kings 16:30 it says, "He was more wicked than all the wicked kings who lived before him." I believe God considered him more evil than Jezebel. And perhaps he was partly responsible for Jezebel's evil because in his covert ways, her personality worked really well for his agenda. There's an interesting story about Ahab wanting a vineyard in the Bible, which illustrates really well the expression of his covert narcissism and Jezebel's overt narcissism in Kings 21. So I'm going to give you the gist of the story. Ahab notices the beautiful vineyard of his next door neighbor Naboth, and Ahab wants to have that vineyard for himself. So he says to Naboth, "Your vineyard is right next to my palace. Why don't you give it to me so I can make a vegetable garden out of it and I'll trade you a better vineyard for it, or I'll pay you for it." So Naboth answered very politely and said, "I'm sorry, this is my family inheritance. God forbids that I should sell my family inheritance." So Ahab becomes very frustrated and upset by Naboth's reply. And the Bible says that Ahab went to bed that night without eating anything. So the story is very telling. When Ahab couldn't get the vineyard, he became very frustrated, upset, and sullen. He made himself like a victim of Naboth, even though he was the one clearly trespassing God's commandment. So as you can see, Ahab had a massive level of entitlement and unreasonable expectations of Naboth. He wanted Naboth to violate God's commandment and give up his family inheritance so that he could plant a vegetable garden. Now, this is a predominant narcissistic trait. They make extreme demands of other people, and they see nothing wrong with it. Ahab saw nothing wrong with his request, but everything wrong with Naboth's refusal to give him the vineyard. Narcissists cannot stand boundaries. They can't stand people telling them no. On top of that, narcissists will use their sense of being wronged or feeling wronged to rally others to do their bidding. They use others as tools to get what they want. So now the story goes on. It says later on that Ahab's wife Jezebel noticed the king's sullen mood, and she reminded him that, you're the king. So she told him to get up because she was going to go get the vineyard for him. So what happened? Jezebel arranged to have Naboth falsely accused and killed so Ahab could get the vineyard, and eventually he did. So it's a pretty sad story and a troubling story, and this just shows where Jezebel becomes a tool in Ahab's hands. So Jezebel may have been overt and evil herself, but these attributes worked very well for Ahab, the covert narcissist, because then the spotlight could be on Jezebel to do all the dirty work for him and to suffer whatever consequences for her overt behavior and be blamed for it, while he would remain stealth and continue playing the victim. It's all a big form of control.
Okay, guys, so you just heard what she said. We're going to break that down. First off, she did an excellent job. Second off, I've seen the spirits in reverse as well. I've seen Jezebel in a male, and I've seen, oh wow, lighting again. The enemy does not want this message out. I've seen Jezebel in a male, and I've seen Ahab in a female. And technically, from what she just said, the difference between those two spirits is Jezebel is almost always more overt, and Ahab is almost always more covert. However, narcissism is narcissism, and depending on what type of manipulation or deception they're trying to accomplish, they will take the appropriate measure, just like any type of general, or just like anyone in war. It's spiritual warfare, so it's like an act of war. If it is less dangerous for me to covertly attack you, then I'm going to do that, especially if it's just like we wouldn't overtly attack China, because China has more people, like billions of people, more people than we have. We're just gonna let that light die out, guys. We got enough light. You have way more people than we have in the US. So theoretically, if it was just a battle human on human, China would slaughter everyone. Of course, we know technology, whoop de whoop, is involved, but it just illustrates the point of, if it's a higher chance of success for me to accomplish my mission covertly, I'm going to do that. And if I feel like I am, and vice versa, you can see that the men, they bitch, they complain, they don't stand up, they're more of a, it's still a negative energy. That's what people don't realize. It's just on the lower end. It's like guilt, it's like sadness, it's like shame, playing the victim role. I see a lot of the men playing the victim role, and they've been conditioned to do this through the culture. All right, guys, we're back. I had some technical difficulties. The enemy definitely did not want this message out. I really don't know why, because to me, I thought this was like common knowledge. Well, I know it's not common knowledge, but for those that have ears to hear and eyes to see, I'm positive you learned a lot from that. If you're dealing with someone you believe is a narc, the best thing you can do is arm yourself with knowledge. Again, applied knowledge is power, so don't be entertained. Actually consume the information and utilize it to better yourself in your situation. As you guys can see, we had lights flickering. We had somehow a fly got in the studio, and it was just a lot of craziness. But thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, a lot of content, over 100 videos, over 10,000 views. We trending upward, family. Like, I don't know what else to say. I love y'all. See y'all on the next one.